Hello guys, welcome to Aniswift TV.
Our story starts off with the boar approaching a building. She goes inside and sees the elevator open but chooses to take the stairs instead. She begins reminiscing about her time training where she assassin creeds about and puts the guards to sleep, but on one mission after handing over a full course of her fist special she spares one of her guards. The boar's father punishes her for it and fires the guard while her mom shows only love and care for her. She awakens to her sister showing the animal she slaughtered, but one day her father returned home from a battle royal where he got the chicken dinner and chooses the boar's sister as his successor. The boar destroys her room and makes a plan to become the gaslighting queen by first taking her sister's crush, then makes her put new holes in guards before she advances to graduating her classmates from life. She embraces her sister and tells her that her purpose in life is to be an artist, then sends her on more missions where she paints the battlefield red. Until one day she makes a mess that the maids can't clean up, so they're forced to lock her away, but the boar comes in and tells her that there are still more floors to paint. She leaves a knife behind that her sister takes and gives herself a new hole, and leaving the boar as the new successor. She enters a room, eyeing all her opponents when she suddenly sees Snake resting on the floor, but the rabbit denies it and says it's nothing to lose her head over. The game master arrives and tells them to swallow the jewels on the table. The boar shows that she swallows as the master explains that the jewels are a poison that will off them in 12 hours, so they win by collecting the rest from their competition's stomachs, as the winner will get both the antidote and one wish. The master begins the battle royal, but the monkey interrupts and begin to negotiate a plan where no one has to meet Jesus. She begins convincing the other team of an alliance, but when the totally sane rabbit raises his hand they pull out. An explosion suddenly occurs that takes out the floor and scatters the competitors. The boar sees the rabbit approaching and decides she wants to put holes in him. She makes a plan to make her choppers sing while dodging his blades before luring him with a feint to make him a hashtag. But things don't go as planned, because while the rabbit runs towards her, someone grapples the boar while he makes her the throat goat. She looks back and sees that the rabbit is a necromancer. He tells her not to worry because she'll be his new friend. All the other competitors escapes the building in their own way as the monkey and the rat walk the street and decide to hide away in the sewage systems. The rat reveals that she was the one to blow up the floor, so she tells him that she sensed that someone was planning to eliminate all the competitors at the beginning, which she couldn't allow to happen because she's a pacifist. All the other warriors wander around the city searching for opponents while the dog decides to look for a place to hide. He reveals that his special ability is not his dog bite, but instead the danger lies in the poison in his bite, and because his body is used to poisons, the jewel will not affect him, so he just needs to sit and wait to win. A pigeon suddenly flies down as the chicken comes forth and reveals herself. He goes into dog breathing first form, but she says that she wants to join his party, then goes on to explain that the rabbit is a necromancer and she's tracking him. Seeing that the necromancer is the biggest threat, the dog decides to form an alliance with the chicken to use her and defeat the rabbit. They walk toward their enemy while the dog explains that the ox is the greatest threat because of his skills. The rabbit split his warriors into two groups and the chicken lost sight of all but the boar, so the dog decides that he's going to use her as a decoy, so he grabs her arm and have a taste of chicken. He reveals that he buffed her with steroids so she can become much stronger to defeat the rabbit and his allies, but she uses her newfound strength to blow his mind. She reveals that as a child, she sent her parents to a better place and the police brought her to the hospital where they found her ability and decide to use her as an agent who betrays her allies by pretending to be a damsel in distress, while eliminating her targets with bird boomers. She takes the dog's jewel and thanks his loot box for her newfound strength and walks the streets to see the boar. She commands all her birds to fly around and begins feasting on her flesh until only bones are left. She goes to the supermarket where she encounters the rat. He reminds her that she agreed to the monkey's alliance, then carries her to their base. She introduces herself to the monkey and is invited to join the team, but she doesn't believe that she's serious about being peaceful and begins to think to just make them a hashtag, but she suddenly starts telling Monkey all she has found out. She leaves them be because for some reason she couldn't bring herself to end them. The chicken walks down the street where she encounters the ox. She tries to get on his good side, but the ox isn't a simp, so he charges at her, then gives her a lobotomy. In the sewer, the rat reveals that the chicken has passed. She questions how he knows, but he says it's his instincts, then blames the monkey's optimism for chicken's invitation to heaven. She says her plan can still end the battle royal peacefully and explains that her job is a negotiator who seeks the best ways to end wars in the most peaceful ways possible, but sometimes it doesn't work out and leads to even greater tragedy. She hears something coming in the distance and sees many hell birds coming toward them. They escape the sewer to see Snake waiting for them. The monkey styles on him as the rabbit reveals himself and challenges them. She tries to talk peacefully, but he rushes at her, so she unlocks ultra instincts to dodge all his attacks until he calls for his birds, where she shows her hands are rated E for everything. She continues their fight, easily disarming the rabbit, so he runs away before turning to fight her. She plans to immobilize him with her next move, but he makes her into a shish kebab, then turns her into his friend. Meanwhile, the sheep goes around searching for allies when he finds the tiger taking a nap. He gets ready to give her fireworks, but she calls him out and starts using tiger breathing style and one-shots him before he could use his boomer. The horse sits in a safe hiding from the competition, but he realizes that the rat is in the room with him. He fills in the horse on everything that's happening outside, then leaves to go and find the sheep. He sits in the corner until he realizes that the snake is setting everything on fire. He tries his best to escape the safe, but he's slowly suffocating inside. The rabbit sends the monkey to get the jewel and bring back the body. Meanwhile, the snake encounters the tiger, who disarms him and begins drinking his weapon, so he starts to use snake breathing, but the tiger realizes it's a waste fighting a zombie and leaves. But the ox arrives, then disarms him also. They get ready to fight as the snake arms embrace their windpipes and force them to work together in order to get out of his grip, while the dragon watches from far above, complimenting the rabbit for his choice in employees. He decides to help his brother out when an object suddenly flies past him. He catches his brother's thinker, then the rabbit comes up and reunites them so they can fight together. The snake and the dragon's puzzle pieces confront the ox and tiger. They give Ox a heads up, then begin to fight them with all their puzzle pieces, but the tiger jumps on the dragon's back and takes his weapon to unleash it on the zombies to dispose of them. The rabbit shows up and begins a 2 versus 1, only to be torn to threads. The tiger and ox decide it's time to fight each other, when Tiger remembers the times when she wandered the battlefield drunk. But one day she meets Ox, who takes out an entire unit all by himself, before coming back and offering his help to her as he thinks she's a civilian. She asks him how he knows to do the right thing. He carries her on his back while explaining that someone should never blame their circumstances for doing wrong, because there is always a choice, so the only way to do good is to just do so. He brings her to a tent, then leaves her to continue his slaughter, and she goes home to live a more positive lifestyle instead of a drunk while traveling the battlefield to find him again. One day, she realizes that the ox will be in the battle royal and begs her father to make her the tiger, but when she got to the skyscraper he didn't recognize her. The rabbit's arms drag a poker towards Ox, but Tiger decides to take one for the team. He chops the rabbit into chunks, but the puzzle pieces just keeps on moving, so he decides to retreat with the tiger. She tells him to put her down so she can pass in peace and says she wants him to end her so she doesn't come back as a walker. He tells her that she will end as a warrior, so they say their titles, then he makes her past tense. The rabbit arrives looking like an animatronic from Freddy's. They begin the dance of swords, with the ox having the upper arm. But Monkey suddenly bursts from his chest and pins down the ox. He realizes that Monkey must have been the one who put him back together again, while watching the rabbit slowly reform so he can turn him into the Walking Dead. The ox decides he won't be a puppet and attempts to change his living status, but Monkey corrects him. The rat appears out of nowhere after finding the sheep's body holding a boomer. The ox realizes he arrived at the perfect time to win the competition and tells him to finish them all off. He places down the boomer and walks away as he sends everyone to a fiery hell. The game master congratulates the rat for winning and asks for an interview. The rat refuses, then sees a future of him passing. He tries to refuse countless times, but after he leaves the room he meets a more and more painful visit to heaven. He agrees to the interview, so the game master asks how he won. He explains that his power is to see 100 different futures, and he found only one where he actually wins. The master tells him that he's free to go, but reminds him that he can contact them at any time to have his wish granted. He wanders the world thinking about what his wish should be. The rat begins thinking about bringing back Monkey, but decides not to because he doesn't know in what form she will return. He begins thinking of the wishes of the other competitors from the Battle Royal, but none of them seems appealing to him. The next day, he still hasn't come up with a wish, so he decides to upgrade his ability from 100 to 1000, but he thinks it over because he still feels and remembers every future he dies, and even if he erased them, He begins to go through 99 wishes all at once, causing him to have a mental breakdown, and finally decides to make a wish to forget that he had to make a wish, where he now finds peace in this world. Like the video if you liked the video, subscribe for more. Thanks for watching and remember to stay swiftly.